Welcome to episode 222 of Missing Pieces. This is my weekly audio journal podcast where I talk about what I'm up to and what I'm into. This episode is going to be discussing diversification, but before we do that, I've got to vent my frustration with today. For the record, today is September 20th, 2024. It's 12:24 p.m. And right about now is when I should be driving home from the last community yard sales of the year, which just so happened to be the best ones. And that was the plan this entire week, all the way up until yesterday afternoon when I got a text from Deb, Yammy, as she's known in some circles, who said that the community yard sales aren't actually until next Friday, which is a huge bummer, not only because I was looking forward to it all week, but because today is the most glorious day outside. It is perfectly sunny. It's probably going to be the last 80-degree day of 2024 here in Pennsylvania. And I looked at the forecast for next week to make matters worse. Literally rain the entire week. So I'm a little bummed about that. There's a part of me that's kind of excited because I still have something to look forward to with the 2024 yard sale season and like just dreaming about it going out with a bang. But I'm just hoping for the best with the weather. And if I know the forecast well enough, it'll probably change 6, 7, 12 times between now and then. So by the time next Friday comes, I'm hoping to report back to you in the same time, same place, telling you that it was all hoax, beautiful weather out. We found like the greatest Lego score you'd ever imagine. I found video games on video games, toys. We had to drive home and come back to fill the car up because there was so much epicness. That's what I'm putting out there, and we're going to manifest it. Speaking of manifesting things, I'm going to have to manifest a new place to live stream on Greg's Arcade. This is a bit of a follow-up from last week's news where it's probably been like 3 weeks now. Right before Clark and I went back to school, he did a live stream on Greg's Arcade where he was streaming Fortnite, and YouTube shut him down because he's under 13, obviously, and I wasn't directly in the video frame with him. I was actually back in the Barotech editing. And we got shut down, and I was asking for clarification as to whether this was a temporary or permanent ban because there was like no updates, and they were being like really dodgy of the question. So I asked for clarification again, and their answer, still terrible. If you've ever dealt with YouTube customer service, it's like literally it's the worst. But they said that I will not be able to live stream until I'm able to live stream again, which essentially means like if I'm able to, it'll just appear that I'm able to again. There's nothing, as far as I know, maybe if I keep bucking the system a little bit, I can't do anything to change that. I can't get it reinstated. In fact, my message to them was, is it a temporary ban? If so, how long? Is it a permanent ban? If so, how can I go about like getting that resolved or like bringing myself back in somehow? And they basically just told me like it's shut off until AI, the master behind the controls, whoever it is, the YouTube algorithm gods, until they decide to flip the switch and allow me to stream again, which in my estimation is that I'll probably never be able to stream again on that channel, which is a huge bummer. But that takes us to the point of today's episode: diversification. Maybe this is actually an opportunity because there are other video game streaming platforms out there. And I'll admit, I love to stream games because I feel like I'm more inclined to play them if I have like an audience with me and we're playing together. That's way more interesting and exciting to me than it is just like uploading gameplay, which was going to be like my backup plan, if you will, where I was just going to be like, okay, instead of live streaming it, I'll just record like 30 minutes of me playing this game and I'll upload it and people can enjoy it as though it's live. I could even premiere it. Well, there's a website called Twitch. I've experimented with that before, and I've always been kind of bummed on there because like you have this big audience on YouTube and some of those people are on Twitch and they come over, but like it's a much smaller one. But then I'm thinking like, you know what? Twitch also has this ability, and I can kind of have the best of both worlds here, where one, it's a different platform. Diversification, not only good in your stock portfolio, but in your online video making portfolio. I know I'm probably one of the few people that actually do this for a living that's listening to this. Most of you are just along for the journey with me, and I'm hoping that it's not too much of a bumpy ride, but I would recommend putting your seatbelt on because there's some shakeups happening here. I was thinking, why don't I live stream on Twitch? Audience size, big, small, whatever. Just have some fun. Clark's been really into playing Fortnite lately. I'm not so much into that, so what he's been doing is he plays here on the PC, and then I play console games on the TV. And usually that's an issue because I need the computer in order to stream. But I kind of like when I did the Atari video, which you may have seen this week, I kind of just had the camera set off to the side, and I've watched other people stream on TikTok where it's not like they're doing a like actual screen share with like their little face cam. That's what this whole setup's for, really, is for live streaming like that. They kind of just did it. Some would call like the ghetto way, where you just set your thing up and you're filming the screen and you're in the shot too a little bit, and it's like reactions are happening, and it feels, in my opinion, way more organic than it does when you have like picture in picture or green screen and all that stuff. I people probably prefer that, and that's how all the big time people do it, but I like the feeling like you're just sitting there playing games with somebody. And there's this guy that I found on YouTube that plays old Nintendo games like that, where it's just like he just sets his phone up and he's sitting there playing on one of those old console TVs that you might have had if you grew up anytime before like the early 90s. You might have had like a console TV in your house, one of those big wooden boxes with the TV inside and speakers and stuff. And I just love the feel of that. So I was thinking, maybe I'll just set up and live stream that way to Twitch. And then they have this cool feature where whenever the stream is done, after like a couple days, if you're an affiliate, you have to wait so many days, but they'll upload that automatically to YouTube. So I'm thinking this is kind of the best of both worlds. I've got the live stream capability where I can play and interact, because again, that's the fun part. And then it can just go out to the YouTube crowd whenever the time is ready, and then they can watch it as such. And if I can set it as a premiere, there can even be a live chat while the gameplay is happening. And if I could find the time, which is unlikely, I could be in there kind of like chatting it up too and stuff. So I'm kind of leaning towards that. I'm going to run it by Clarkman, see what he thinks. You know, he's my partner in crime, and see if he wants to do that. In fact, we could really literally have the Greg's Arcade going, because we could set up the camera as such that you could see both of us playing games and hear both of our reactions and things. And that just kind of came to me while I was talking about it, which is why I do this podcast. This is very much like me just thinking out loud. And sometimes you come up with your best ideas when you're just kind of mulling it over. This is me talking to you as my therapist. You don't say much back. You're just sitting there taking notes. In fact, you're the one kind of laying down on the couch, you know, and relaxing while I'm like doing all the work here. So I hope you appreciate that. You can leave a like on the video. You can do anything you want, really, but I'm just thankful that you're here listening. Anyways, that's part one of diversification, but I've got another part here, and this one's kind of it's way bigger news than possibly streaming games on Twitch, and that is Greg is now making TikTok vlogs. What? Yeah, I'll admit I've been on TikTok for a little bit now, not producing content necessarily. Burkitect has a few videos on there, but I love watching TikTok. I love the algorithm, like we all do, how it serves you videos that are exactly what you want to watch. And when they focus on what you love, they just keep giving you more of that. And the dopamine hit is extravagant. And I have this concept of no 0 days, which I'm sure you're all well aware of, but it's the idea of making progress towards your goals every day, to not have a 0 day. A 0 day is like a hiking term where you just kind of sit out for the day because you're whooped. And in some cases that makes sense. When you're me and this is what you do, there's no reason for a 0 day. So I've been wanting to make this handle called No Zero Greg and make this TikTok channel that's kind of focused on exactly that. And the YouTube channel is kind of been that a little bit lately with the Storage Room of Doom series and things. But I was like, let me just kind of dial this in, make a very focused video attempt, vertical video of me kind of just like doing various things each day. Not like a full day in the life vlog, although my first one, which I recorded yesterday and is coming out today for a very specific reason, is like that. I want each video to kind of have like a special like topic or something that people would want to watch. Like, as cool as it is seeing a guy go throughout his day, I think it's more cool to like see something that's like focused, if that makes sense. But the reason that it starts today is because I'm doing a series called 100 Days. And I've done this, I think maybe once before, but this one's big because it's 100 days until my 40th birthday. In fact, today is day 99, with the December 28th, 2024 being day 0. That'll be the last entry in that particular series. And we'll determine if I continue uploading videos to TikTok like in the vertical style. So I'm also going to be putting them on YouTube. If you're in the comments right now saying like, Greg, I hate TikTok, I'll never go over there, I'm going to upload the videos to YouTube as well. They're going to be vertical, but they're not going to be shorts because they're all going to be over a minute. There's no chance that I'm going to fit anything that I want to say in less than a minute. I've tried it before with my Bugatti build on YouTube, where I was trying to do like weekly updates and literally just talking about what you did in a Lego build for the week. I was struggling to get that in under a minute. That was the hardest part of making those videos, was fitting that in. TikTok, I don't think, has a limit. In fact, they prefer your videos to be over a minute because it means you can't cross-post them to YouTube Shorts because they're in a bit of a battle now. In fact, YouTube is seemingly very desperate to catch TikTok, at least in terms of like affiliate sales. There's this thing called TikTok Shop where people are like, kind of like pushing products in there. I don't intend to do that as of right now unless I find something I really love. But YouTube's like desperate to get in the game with that. They've been sending me all these emails trying to hook me up with like a partner manager to get me to start doing like affiliate things where I can sell products on YouTube and then I get a cut from it, almost like Amazon. And that's not me. I mean, if there's a product that I buy that I like, I put a link to it, but I don't want to be a shill. That's just not my desire. But anyways, I made the conscious decision to put these videos in a vertical orientation, which is very bizarre to me after 13 years of filming horizontal videos and actually like scoffing at people that film vertical ones. I'm filming them vertical. So on TikTok, it's going to be a great experience for people there, especially like once we get this going, because the titles are going to count down. It's going to be like 100, 99, 98, 97, 96. We're going to go the whole way through with each day being something that I'm up to or into. So if you're a Missing Pieces fan, this will be right up your alley. In fact, it could pretty much replace this podcast, something that I've been dabbling with. Like I come back here and I talk about these things and it's like, well, I'm already showing them, but I think we need to keep this going. And if you're a listener, you'd probably agree, because this is like, I like this as a long form kind of release. Like we talked about therapy. This is that for me. It does take an hour of my week each week plus some, but I think it's a good investment, even though like financially it's not. But that's not what I'm doing it for. In fact, my TikTok that I just uploaded, it's got 30 some views right now. So it's like literally like nothing's happening there. I'm not going to make any money with it, but it's just the fact of diversifying and maybe growing an audience there and just seeing like what that's like, if that makes sense. You know, just kind of like taking what I do, making it way more concise. Like my first video was over 4 minutes long, which in TikTok terms is an eternity, but in YouTube terms, that's a fairly short video. In fact, you'd almost consider that short form. This very long form, I'm usually in the middle. I'm like between like 10 and 15 minutes are usually what my vlogs settle into, but that's like showing a whole day. When you like really dial it in and you're like, just going to show like this, or like something very specific, it's easier to make it smaller. Although I did a Lightbox video, which I guess is kind of a topic for reselling, which I guess we'll talk about now, at least the Lightbox. I bought a Lightbox this week, and it was very much just like the time that I got the label printer. I had been using a piece of poster board for the background of my reselling stuff, and it worked fine. The pictures looked good, but I've been wanting to do like an eBay toy store where I sell like toys and games and things like that. And I felt like that they would show a lot better if I got like a proper like photography box with, you know, it has like a circular light at the top, and it's just like a cube with one side open, and then it has a piece of poster board that's folded, kind of like bent in it to create like not a corner but like a slope in the back. And then you take photos in there and they look fantastic. And I thought that'd be a good investment. And when you know it, it certainly was. It makes things look amazing. In fact, my very first thing I took a photo of, which was the Sega CD game I got last week, it sold within minutes of me listing it. I don't know if it was the photo or if it was just somebody that was just in the right place at the right time, or maybe someone that watches my channel and they're like, oh crap, you got that game that I've always wanted. I'm going to follow his eBay thing, and then if he posts it, I'll get notified. I don't know how that works, but it sold and made my first sale using the Lightbox. Starting to pay itself off. Is only like $40, but that was a little bit of reselling mixed in with my diversification talk. And I think all I really want to say about it is I'm very curious to see where the next 100 days goes. I don't know if I'm going to regret like spreading myself like this, where some of it's going to be a TikTok and then I'm posting to YouTube, not in the most ideal format, but 100 days, 100 videos, it'll be kind of fun. And also like a part of people's routines, you know, because it'll be like, oh, what did he do today? And again, this isn't going to be like, I woke up, I brushed my teeth, I got on the elliptical, I had my protein shake. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be like something each day that I'm doing. In fact, I have like a little bit of some hauls that are stacking up now in the world of sports cards that I want to make videos on those too. And I'm the main reason is like my YouTube videos feel like at this moment feel like each one is like something like deliberate and special. Whereas the TikTok philosophy is I'll put out 3-4 videos a day on TikTok. You know, like that's what people do. And they're short. They're you don't have the subscription feed that's getting plugged up. It's just the algorithm. You put out 4 videos today, maybe some people see it, and I kind of like that. So as of right now, there won't be any, as far as I know, and I haven't planned this out too closely. There won't be any exclusive content on TikTok yet, but that may change in the future if it just makes sense to put over there. Like if I film a card video that I know is going to tank on Greg's World. And I guess that's a big problem that I'm having now is Greg's World. It's like a gift and a curse because Greg's World has been built to this massive thing because kids have enjoyed watching it all throughout the years, tons of kids. The problem is those kids grow up over time, as does my kid. And as their tastes change, our tastes change. And as Clark grows up, I kind of find myself, especially once he goes back to school, I find myself doing solo things, at which point those kids have zero interest in. So I'm making videos for this audience that doesn't care at all. Like that Lightbox video that I shot, that's going to be my worst performing video. That Atari video that I was so excited to make, and I was really happy about the things I got, I got everything working, I showcased it. Worst performing video that I made in my last 10. But the interesting thing is, and this is what you have to look for the future. I don't live in the moment. I'm thinking like way out from now. A lot of adults are starting to comment on the videos. I'm assuming probably the parents of the kids, or maybe they found us somehow. Like their kids not interested, but maybe they still are. And I get like stories of people's Atari stories and stuff. So I'm going to stick with the plan, which has always been make the content that I feel called to make that appeals to me. If that's opening up a box of starting lineup action figures, spoiler alert, stay tuned. If it's opening up 90s basketball cards, if it's playing a certain game, if it's sharing anything. How about like it could literally be anything. Like I think my content now is going to really start moving towards the 40-year-old male demographic as opposed to the like 5 to 10-year-old kid demographic, which there was a time when we were compatible because that's where my son was. But, you know, now like Clarkman has his own channel. If he wants to make those kind of videos, he makes them and he puts them on his channel, which I'm all about. So like the way I see it is like all those kids, they can migrate over there and they can grow up with Clarkman as they share things together. Like there's a time when Clarkman was into Thomas. There's a time when Clark was into monster trucks. There's a time when he's into Transformers. There's a time when he's into Minecraft. There's a time he's into Fortnite. All these kids are growing up and enjoying the same things together. But that's not like where I'm at. In Greg's World, even though it's like a family vlog, it's always been deeply personal to me. And it's always been like my story and my hobbies and the people, places, and things in my life. And that's kind of the direction it's going to go. I do foresee like it tanking for quite a while as we pivot, because YouTube obviously is pushing these videos out to people that aren't interested in them. And they're not doing well, but then they do. Like there's this, it's weird. Like they don't do well initially, but then people tend to find them. And I think the right people are finding them. So that's what I'm working for. Don't take this to mean that I don't love young kids watching the channel. I love to be a role model if I can be. And if they're interested in watching a darn near 100-day out 40-year-old dude playing Atari 2600, more power to them. I'm just saying like there's more kids that want to watch goofy reaction videos on YouTube and stuff like that than watch what I'm doing. And I'm okay with that. That being said, the TikTok thing is going to be very much from the beginning what I predict the present and future being. So it'll be interesting to see the demographic that grows up over there. And I'm sure there'll be a lot of cross things happening, which is the goal too. Like TikTok versus YouTube. TikTok has a lot of discoverability, you know, because the algorithm's always like for you, feeding you new stuff. Whereas YouTube, I find, is like, oh, you watched this video before? Here's 15 other videos from that person. And I have a heck of a time sometimes on YouTube, like finding new content, new people to subscribe to. So I'm curious to see like what this does. It's a big experiment more than anything. I'm committing to 100 days. Every single day there will be a video that comes out there. And we'll see what happens. It'll be fun to kind of experiment with. And I will definitely be reporting back on a weekly basis here on Missing Pieces as to, you know, how it goes. And if it fails, it fails. It's no harm done. I have all these little vlogs that I'm documenting. They're all vertical, which is weird. And I guess that's another thing. Like I predict, as of right now, vertical video obviously is the king of at least people watching on their phones. But what happens when we go from phones then to glasses, where we're watching everything on like AR glasses or whatever? You're not going to watch vertical content anymore. You're going to watch horizontal. So this stuff might look very dated, but we watch old content that's not widescreen, and it's the same. And it's not about the aspect ratio, it's about what's inside, right? That's what I'm saying. So that is what I'm doing there. If you want to follow me on TikTok, if you want to be one of the first, who knows, maybe we'll have a follower by Sunday when this comes out. No Zero Greg, you can look it up and you can watch the vids there if it's more convenient for you, or you can just watch them on YouTube if since you're already here, you can do that. Let's go back to reselling news. I talked about my light box, but I have a story that I want to tell you about this item that came back to me. I use my post office box as my return address because I don't want you creepsters finding out my actual address when I'm sending items out. So I went to my post office box the last time I picked up an item, and I've been trying to tell a story for like weeks, but it keeps escaping my mind. So this week I put it on the outline. I had this package in there from me to a person, but returned to me. I opened it up and it was this wooden Liverpool puzzle I got a long time ago at the bins. And I'm like, why did this come back? It said insufficient address or no such address for the person. And I was like, that's bizarre, because I looked it up and it is very much a real address. So I was like, okay, I'll reach out to the person and be like, hey, I got your puzzle back here. Do you want me to try resending it? Do you have another address? Send an email or message through eBay. Never heard anything back. Month later, still haven't heard anything back at all. This thing's sitting in my storage room. And I guess I'm going to relist it. I mean, they bought it. They never received it. And it came back to me and they never responded. Maybe, like, who knows what happened? Maybe they died. Maybe they moved. Maybe they got kidnapped. Maybe they got abducted by aliens. Any number of things could have happened. I'm going to assume aliens. But that was the first time I ever got an item back that like was unclaimed. What has happened before, and I'm really frustrated with this week, 2 items of mine, both from my Lego sales on the Brickatech store, I took to the post office along with a lot of other items. So this happened on 2 separate days. Let's say one Lego item goes with like 4 different Greg's collection stuff from eBay. All of that Greg's collection stuff got delivered. The Brickatech one showing that the post office never received it when I literally handed it right to them. Very bizarre. Same thing on another day, different post office. I had a Greg's World package or Greg's collection package and a Brickatech package. The Brickatech one, nowhere to be seen. It basically, like, the only reason I found out is the person messaged me and they're like, hey, are you planning to ship that out? It's not showing any movement. And I'm like, what? I dropped that off on Monday, and it just shows that I printed a label and I never dropped it. So the new rule is, and this is my fault, I usually just take all the stuff in and I drop it. I'm like, I don't need a receipt, and I leave. From now on, receipt every time. I need verification that the person scanned it into the system, because at that point, it's the post office problem and not mine. The way it looks on eBay is like, I printed a label, but I just never sent it. And that makes me look bad as a seller. And it's just so like bizarre and also sucky that it was 2 of them happened on my Lego account, which I hardly have anything listed. I have like 9 items on there. My only 2 sales this week, and neither one of them supposedly shipped. So I don't know if they'll come back. They might go to my post office next time I go there. Maybe they'll be there. But like, I'll refund these people's money, but I'm out the shipping. Like, it's going to cost me like $10 between the 2 of them, which is a bummer, especially when you know you did it. I spent all that time and energy like packaging it, labeling it, listing it, all of that stuff, taking it to the post office. But from now on, I can't take their word for it. I gotta get a receipt, because obviously there's something happening there that they're becoming somewhat unreliable. And I would think that it's my fault if it was the only thing I took that day, like, well, or like maybe it fell in my car. I even looked in my car. I'm like, maybe I didn't take it, but I specifically remember taking all this stuff and all the other stuff got delivered. What happened to my Lego stuff and where is it? Like, it went into the post office. It never showed up. Speaking of that though, our friends just got a Christmas card from us a week ago. Where was that at? It's postmarked December. Where was it? Like, was it in the mail carrier's car? Did it like fall between the seat and they just cleaned their car out after 9 months? And they're like, oh, a piece of mail that I need to deliver. Like, where was this Christmas card for the last 9 months? X-Files music plays. I don't know, dude. It's bizarre. It's wild. It's the mail service. But I will say this, like the last time I had this happen was a Lego product again. Maybe they're shaking the Lego and they're like, ooh, there's Lego in here. I'm keeping this for myself. I shipped out this $10. It was like a cheap Lego monster truck last December. I specifically remember dropping off. In fact, I have vlog footage of me packaging it up What more verification could you have? I'm going to start just vlogging myself, like handing this stuff over and send the person the video. The person said they never got it. It was right before Christmas. And I'm like, I don't know. I dropped it off, but it shows they didn't receive it. So I refunded them. That thing, as far as I know, never showed up. Maybe it went to their house eventually, but like there's probably stuff in the post office that's just like just accumulating, you know? I don't know what they do with it all. Do they just get rid of it? Do they try to send it out? I don't know. If any post office employees out there, give us spill the tea on that. But I was a little bummed about that. So this weekend, I'm going to see if those two things pop up somewhere. And if they don't, then I'm going to have to issue a refund. Speaking of getting refunds, I didn't get a refund on the book that I read. It's called Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. This was a book that initially, like coming off of the Stephen King, this is the Book Attack discussion, by the way, coming off the Stephen King's 11/22/63. Stephen King, obviously an incredible writer. I wasn't connecting with the Trevor Noah one so much. He's the anchor or the host, I guess you'd say, of The Daily Show. Took over for Jon Stewart. I don't watch that at all. In fact, I've never watched him as the host. I just know that this memoir of his about being a kid growing up poor in South Africa and dealing with the injustices there with the police and the racism and all that stuff, it was supposed to be very good. And it actually turned out to be a very interesting story. It's not like, it's almost like what I was talking about, where it's not like, I was born this day, this happened when I was 1, this 2, 3, 4. It's just a collection of stories from his childhood, ranging from like all this thing that happened to him, leading up to the biggest thing, which is his stepfather shooting his mom in the back of the head. And that was like the final story, and just was like, whoa. But yeah, all these different stories about what it was like to grow up in South Africa during a time with a lot of racism, in a time that he was half black and half white, which made things even worse because it was, and the reason why it's called Born a Crime was because when he was conceived, it was illegal for a white person and a black person to be together. So it's crazy to think about. But his stories were good. It was a pretty short book compared to, I mean, it's like 8 hours, but comparing that to Stephen King's like 30-hour books, it's like, whoa. The book that I just started, I think I am probably going to bail on and maybe get a refund. It's called Into Thin Air. It's about this journey up Mount Everest in 1996 by, I think, John Krakauer, who wrote Into the Wild. And I listened to a little bit of it. I'm not super connected with it. I think I maybe need to go back into the world of fiction, which is weird because I used to only read nonfiction books, and I viewed fiction as like, well, why would I waste my time listening to a made-up story when I could get some facts? But it's like, you know, books are supposed to be a place for your mind to escape to and a journey. And oftentimes, the real life isn't nearly as interesting as fiction. Like Trevor Noah could have wrote all kinds of stories that weren't true, but I'm assuming the ones that he told were. So I'm going to do that. There's also on Audible, there's an opportunity that you can listen to free books on there too, but I have some credits to use. I think I'm going to bite the bullet on Chronicles of Narnia. Super huge, long collection. But I think that may be where I'm going to go. I've gotten other recommendations from people as well, which I've been keeping notes on. But I think that's maybe what I want to read. That one's going to take me a long time though, because I think that might be quite a bit longer than the Stephen King one actually. So that's where I'm at in Book Attack. The last segment, or we got 2 segments left. We'll talk about Greg's pets. First news story: the Chickions have decided to start ripping up the Chickion yard. They've been living out in my yard. I have a huge fenced-in area. I'm sure you've seen it. They've been living out there for nearly 5 years now, and it's always been pretty decent. They make these little spots under the shade areas where they do their little dirt baths and stuff, but it's always grass. In fact, I always have to mow it. I take like a manual mower out because I don't want to disturb them and stuff. But like a week ago, they started like digging up the dirt. And I don't know if it's because it's so dry. We haven't had rain here in a long time. We're kind of in like a drought, it seems. But they started digging up this area. And I'm like, why are you guys digging that up? And then like it started expanding. And I'm like, holy smokes, like you guys are going to be living in the dirt. So I got this orange like construction fencing. You've probably seen it's like plastic fencing, and I put that up with some wooden posts to keep them out of the area that they dug in. Planted some new grass, put some straw in. And I'm like, maybe this will stop them. Well, there was a little bit of a dirt area on the other side of that, and they kept continuing that dirt area. And I'm like, whoa. So I brought that fence way over and gave them this small area, which is actually like still pretty big for 8 chickens. And it seems like they stopped. So now I'm waiting for the grass to recover, because I know if I let them back over there, they're going to rip that all up. and then they're going to eat all the grass seed probably. I don't know if chickens eat that or not, but they will. So I'm trying to grow grass in like late September. We're literally like a couple weeks away from having a frost potentially. And I'm trying to grow grass right now because my chickens are dummies. So that was fun. That cost me like $35 in materials just to stop them from doing that. Because I think, like, if I didn't act, I think they were going to rip up that entire yard. And then it's just like an unsightly dirt mound. And then they're living in dirt. And when I go out there, it gets muddy. And I'm just like, no. That's why I gave them such a big area. So they'd always have space to like walk around and not wear anything down. I don't know if it's one chicken that just got it in their mind that that's what they're going to do. And then the other ones are like, ooh, fresh spot. Let me dig in there too. See if I can dig up some worms and some goodies. I don't know. Chickens, their brains are the size of peanuts, probably even smaller. So yeah, you get what you pay for with them. But I will say chickens are great pets if you're thinking about it. They lay eggs. They're not super lovey, but they're very hands off, and you can leave them for weeks at a time if you need to with food and water, and they're good to go, and they're happy, and they love seeing you walk out plates of food. You never feel more important than if you have like a bowl of like fruit leftovers and 8 chickens. They run to you and they're so excited to see the food, not you. Speaking of things that weren't exciting, a little bit of a scare with Roxy Bear this week. She's actually down here now. She walked down the stairs, which I didn't think would ever be possible again, because the one night, let her out. She's been going out like every night now. Never used to be that way. I used to sleep through the whole night. She'd wake up in the morning, and as soon as she knew that you're moving, she'd pop up and be like right there on you. Nowadays, she's like, she stays downstairs because the stairs are kind of hard for her. And you hear her like walking around and panting and stuff down there. So I'm like, oh crap, I better go let her out, literally. So let her outside, let her back in. And about an hour later, I heard her moving down there again. So I went down, and she was under like the table in our office. And I was like, oh, Bear, what are you doing? And then like she went to get up, and she like fell down. She like splayed out. And I'm like, holy crap. So I like picked her up, and her one leg was kind of moved out a little bit. And she was just having a lot of problems with like keeping on her feet, on her back legs specifically. And I'm like, oh my God. This is it. We're like, I'm gonna have to put her down. Like if she can't use her back legs, like we're done. Like our house is not handicapped accessible. I don't think you can't really do the wheelchair thing with such a big dog. I mean, she's a little poodle. Just pick her up, put her outside, carry her in, carry her food, carry her water. Like those back legs are essential. And I was really scared, and it really like got me worked up. But the weird thing was, within like 2 hours, she was like walking normally again. And I'm thinking that maybe she like laid on it wrong or got splayed out when she was on the wood and like hurt her leg, but now she's okay. In fact, the next day, and you'll see it in the first No Zero Greg video, I let her outside, and she went running down the backyard to chase our neighbor who was doing his morning walk up his driveway. So I'm like, I guess she's okay. She walked down here today. She's going in and out. She's walking up and down the deck steps. But my gosh, that gave me quite the scare, because like I wasn't ready for that. I was like, you would think like I do, like, and this is just being very real, I do think that's going to be her downfall, is losing control of her legs and not being able to get around. But I thought it'd be more of a gradual thing where it's like, okay, she can't even hop up and down like the threshold of the front door. But yeah, just seeing her like back legs give out, and like me trying to pick her hind end up and stand her up, and then like her going down again, scary as heck. But man, like we're on borrowed time. She's now well over 13 years old, approaching, her 14th year if she makes it into 2025. And that's crazy. But yeah, I'm not ready to do that yet. And I started thinking like all the things that go through your mind where you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to like carry her to the car, and then I'm gonna carry her into the vet, and then they're gonna have to put her down, and I'm just gonna be devastated. And it's gonna like it like this is a whole chapter and a part of our life and family. I'm sure those of you with pets out there in your life, you can relate to this, and like all of those things went through my mind. But I was so happy to see her kind of rebound from that, whatever happened, and seemingly be okay now. Like she's just sleeping on the floor over here, which she sleeps probably 23 and a half hours a day, but she's still living a good quality of life. She's eating. She loves to eat. Still not as aggressive as she used to be. Like feed her food. Sometimes she doesn't come over for it right away, which is, in the lab world, that's a bizarre thing. But she's eating. She gets happy when people come home. I mean, she tries to play a little bit on occasion. She'll get one of her toys out. But I know for a fact, like, I'm never going to be able to take her for a walk again. Last walk I took her on was to our neighbor's house, and it was a struggle for her to get back into the house. Like, I had to like lift her back end to go up one stair. And I know we're never going to throw the football again. We're never going to play the chuck chuck. All of her toys and stuff are just in a like a bucket out there, never to be used again. And that sucks. But you know what? We had a really good run. We had so many years together. Lots of memories were made. I have so much of that documented. So Roxy will live on forever. I'm just like, I guess I'm preparing myself. You know, like, I've been thinking about this for 2 years now. Like, when we would go for walks, I'd walk her 2 miles, and I'm thinking, like, this could be the last time. I don't know when this is going to happen again. Like, soak this in, Greg. Like, think about the leaves coming off the trees right now. Think about this moment, because you might not have this again. And I might be at that place right now. So I don't know. Like, I say this to myself, like, I'm not going to be wrecked when this happens, because I know this is the outcome. But like, when you get in that moment, I think all that probably is going to be forgotten, you know, all that preparation that you did. And you're like, no, Greg, you're going to be hard. And when you're taking her in the vet, it's just, that's just natural. I'm going to lose it. So you won't be there for that. I'm certainly not going to be filming any of that, but you know, it's reality. You know what I mean? Like, it's what happens in life. It'll happen to me. I'm about hitting 40 years old. These last 100 days of videos might be my last 100 days for all. Hopefully not. Let's all just stay alive, at least for the next couple months, and for Roxy forever. That's all I care about. Anyways, let's brighten the mood up a little bit. I bring you guys down with these terrible tales of my dog, like, losing control of her legs and thinking the worst. Let me tell you a funny story before we get into listener feedback here. This one is about me trying to get a glass of ice water from the fridge, and I'm trying to get ice cubes and things going row, 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 row. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I keep trying it. It's like row, row. As I open it up, and I see a bunch of ice trapped in there, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. So I start picking all this ice out. And then when you know it, in front of all that ice is a McDonald's sweet and sour packet. We have this drawer, not a drawer, but like a shelf where all these like miscellaneous sauces and sweet and sours and barbecue sauces and all these ketchup packets and all this stuff was like sitting there. And apparently one of those at some point must have fallen down inside the ice dispenser or the chute. And then all the ice was hitting into it. And like the cube that I got out had like sweet and sour on it. I'm like, oh my God. So I picked that all out and I cleaned it. And then I said, you know what? We're never going to go through all these sauces. So I got rid of like every packet of ketchup that was in there. We had like all this different mayonnaise, even like a little jar of mayonnaise. I'm like, when the heck do I even use mayonnaise? Let alone am I going to need a packet of mayonnaise? So I got rid of all the ketchups, all the mayonnaises. I kept the sweet and sours. And I was like kind of devastated because McDonald's sweet and sour sauce is like God tier when it comes to sauces. And it's like, why'd it have to be that one? You know, why the McDonald's one? You're talking about tragedies. So we narrowed that down quite a bit. It's no longer overflowing with various sauces. I'll say Five Guys is the biggest offender. They send you out of there with like 30 packets of ketchup, 30 packets of like vinegar, mustard, all this stuff. So it's heavily narrowed down now to like a couple packets of like hot sauce from Taco Bell, which is probably like 5 years old. Sweet and sour sauces. I think I might have some type of barbecue in there too. And then like one mustard packet. I don't use mustard ever either, except for like on hot dogs. So it's just like an emergency scenario. But I just thought that was a fun story of the time our ice machine started dispensing sweet and sour sauce. Could be maybe a great invention. Write that down, guys. Anyways, that was my week and what I've been up to and into in the week of diversifying and whatever the heck else I've been into. Let's get into listener feedback, which was a little sparse last week. I must have been talking about something that didn't really hit with the peeps. And for that, I apologize. But we do have a few responses here, starting with Janelle, who says, we need an episode of you playing the Atari on Greg's Arcade. Would it be okay if that's Greg's Arcade on Twitch? Says, I love 70s to 80s toys, movies, etc. for the same reason you love the 90s. The Atari gaming system was the first gaming system I ever played. I was like 6'2". She was not 6'2". She was 6 also. Yeah, there will be more Atari coming because I was recommended a game that I should get for the 7800 called Food Fight by a commenter. And I was like, okay, I've heard of this game. Let me look it up. It looks like it's so much fun. So I found it on eBay. I put an offer in and I won it for $10 plus shipping, which is funny because like between that and the Sega CD game, they're basically like an even trade, which is kind of wild because I feel like the Sega CD game should be worth more, but it's in good shape. It was shipped today, so it should be here next week, and you'll see a episode of my 100 Days series where we start playing some Atari 7800. I think I'll make that a segment that is also included with me having cleaned up all of the stuff too. That's a big goal of mine, is to get the 2600, 7800 absolutely spotless, looking pristine along with the games. I want everything like looking mint. So I'll show how nice that is. We'll get the new game in the mail, and we'll play a little bit of Food Fight for the Atari 7800, making at least one person out there very happy. 99% of the other people have no idea what that game is. So I'm sure the video will tank once again, but I'm making the content that I want to make. So stay tuned for that, Janelle. That'll be just like a little video that we do. Next comes from Sam, who left a lengthy comment, as did Ray. Sam has some things here that he wanted to interject in about the video games as well. He says, "Good evening, Greg. I must say I was more interested in your Atari video than I thought I would be. I know nothing about vintage gaming, but it was quite fun to see what gaming was like before my generation was around. I'm sure that when I am your age, I'll look back with things like the Wii U, and Switch with sentimental joy. You will, my friend." He says, "I will say I'm kind of with the companies when going all digital with games." That's where you lost me. He says, "I cannot even begin to tell you how much of a big blessing it is not have to go through the inconvenience of switching cartridges, which is why 60% of my Switch games are digital. Wait until Nintendo makes you buy that game all over again." I mean, the issues that I have with digital games are that I know convenience is a nice thing, but you don't actually like own the game. You own like the license to the game essentially, and that's only if they let you. You can never resell the game. You can't find that game used anywhere. Nintendo controls every aspect of that. And it's so interesting to me how Nintendo charges $60 for a 10-year-old Switch game or whatever. I'm making numbers up here. But you can find that on sale at retail and a physical copy for much less. You would think that the digital one would be less, but it's never the case. Like, why does a physical game going through a third-party retailer cost more than what you're selling it for? It's the same thing with Lego. I guess because they don't want to undercut their partners or whatever. But yeah, I'm not a fan of digital. In fact, like I'm more likely to go back in time with gaming than into the future, especially with like the direction that's going. Like I have zero interest in a PS5 Pro. I would take one if they gave it to me for free, but I barely even play the PlayStation 5 games. Like I don't own that much, although I do have some. I haven't bought any games for Xbox Series X though. I just play the Game Pass games, which are all digital, and I don't own any of them, but I'm kind of okay with that. So maybe I'm kind of in the middle, I suppose. He says, "I still can't get over how lucky you were on that Wednesday. I felt the lucky vibes all the way here in North Dakota." How about that? He says, "I'm happy to announce I finally have a plan for decluttering and get rid of stuff that's no longer useful to me." He's following the Greg's World plan of attack here. He says, "That plan is to wait until I turn 18 just after Christmas and then start selling stuff. I'm quite pathetic for holding off on this once again. This way I can make an eBay account, do it independently of my parents, since I don't want to inconvenience them by making them a part of this." That's a cool plan. Your stuff will still be there. He says, "I've been busy man as of late. I'm the student council once again, so since this week is homecoming week, I've been busy running around and helping with activities. However, it's such a rewarding role, and it's so worth it. I was also dealing with sickness last week, which I'm happy to report has since passed." I feel like Sam just needs to start his own missing pieces. I feel like he could pull it off. It'd be the way he's so much better spoken than I am. He's so much well-spokener than I am that I think it'd be like a 10 out of 10 podcast. He says, "Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us each week. I truly appreciate that you stay true to yourself no matter what the statistics say you should do." How about that? And with that, I'll find you in the next missing pieces, but we got more. We got more here. Don't you cut us off yet, Sam. He says, this one's from John, who says, "I still have my copy of Tomcat Alley for the Mega CD, along with the Sega Mega Drive, Mega CD, and 32X, the Tower of Power." He had the whole kit and caboodle, the stack. If you want to look this up, it's a crazy looking thing. Like you got the Sega Genesis, and then there's like a platform that sits on with the Sega CD beside it, and then the 32X goes inside that. They were just like, let's attach everything to this. He says, "I was always drawn to the FMV games on the Mega CD, Night Trap being one of my favorites. I always thought it was cool to have a game that was like a movie on a CD, which has probably started my collecting of DVDs and Blu-rays. Now at about 1,300 discs, a small collection." Are you sure about that? He says, "I think the best commentary are for the films you really like, enjoy, and want to know more about when went into making the film. Ridley Scott's commentary on Alien is worth watching, and the commentary on Back to the Future, but only because it's one of my favorite films." Same. I should probably look into that. We actually own Back to the Future, I think, on Blu-ray, and it's probably on there somewhere. I should look into that. I mentioned last week I was looking for a movie that had a really good director's commentary that would give me like insight into like the behind the scenes of making the movie. In fact, I was thinking about that with the show Survivor, of which I kind of stopped watching. That came back this week. It's just the same darn show every single time, and they don't move locations. They've gotten lazy with the production, the budget. They don't do any of the cool stuff they used to do. I'd be way more interested in seeing how Survivor's made than the actual show. I want to see like the cameraman, how that all worked. I want to see more behind the scenes, the interviews. Do they like skew people's interviews in certain ways that they want for TV? I'm assuming they do. The tribal council and the stuff that goes on there, the voting. I want to see like an uncut version of all that with a ton of behind the scenes as to how it actually works. I think that'd be so awesome. As for the show, I'm over it. Hopefully you're not over this show. Thank you for tuning in with your Sega memories, John, from the Mega collection, as opposed to what we had here, which was the Genesis. Next one, we got Bobby, the man, the myth, the legend. He says, thanks for bringing up Ronnie's reflections. Trust me, I got him. He says, I was finally able to listen to old episodes on Apple Podcasts and watch 2 new ones on YouTube. I can see why it's your favorite podcast. Really enjoying it. The funny thing is, just when I listen, it sounds like Dave Ramsey is narrating it. Funny. I love Dave. I'm going to go back in your catalog and watch you teaching Clarkman how to ride a bike before I start teaching Michael this weekend. Thanks for sharing. Always appreciate the content. Cheers, Bobby. Funny thing about Ronnie, that's the last listener feedback here. I pressed him once again about making this podcast. It's been a couple weeks. I enjoy listening to it in the way that you probably enjoy listening to this. It's part of like your weekly routine. If he's listening to this now, he's going to almost be forced to do it. He had a good excuse though. He said he's playing golf with his dad, who their parents just moved back in the area. So I'm letting him slide this time. Kidding, of course. It's just it's like catching up with an old friend, and it's like I just love hearing what he's up to and into, right? Like we can relate. But Ronnie did something this week that was really cool. And if you're a patron, you can actually tune into this. But he sent me this link to this thing called Notebook LM, google.notebooklm, something like that, where you can take any kind of written text and then put that into it. He took all of his outlines for his podcast and put it into it. And it creates this AI podcast where it's a man and a woman having a conversation about whatever it is that you put in there. So they're literally discussing Ronnie's life and all the things he's been into the last year, because he put all of his outlines for all of his podcasts in there, which his are more extensive than mine. Mine just have a few words here and there. But these people are just having this conversation, and if you didn't tell me it was AI, I'd have no idea. I was like, this is so cool. They're talking about him getting into Pokemon, getting out of Lego, his son, and all the funny things he did. And I'm just like, and their voices aren't like robots. There's inflection in it. There's like a clearing of throat sometimes. There's stammers. There's things like that make it feel very real. So he sent me the link to this, and I was like, let me just try with one of my episodes. Siri, don't you listen to me. So what I did is I had the audio from it, and I transcribed it using a program called Otter AI, which it can only do 30 minutes. So I had to break it into 2 segments because our podcasts get a little lengthy here, as you can tell. And it transcribed everything that I said into text. I fed that text into this Notebook LM. And then within a few seconds, I had a 9-minute episode of this man and woman discussing my week last week. And it was really crazy. Again, I actually made a video, like I uploaded as a video, and Ronnie's idea was to put it out to patrons. I didn't want to put it on my main channel because, again, we're talking about videos that absolutely tank. Not only do people not want to listen to my podcast, they don't want to listen to a AI podcast about my podcast. In fact, even the patrons it wasn't a hit with them too much either. But I just thought it was really cool. So I did like a little intro on it, and then I played it. And it's just wild to hear these people talking. And it got me thinking, like, if you wanted to make a podcast about certain topics, you could basically write out a script of things you want to talk about. You could have ChatGPT kind of fill in all the blanks. Like, I want to make a podcast about the Atari 7800, the history of the Atari 7800, the best games for it, and make it seem realistic, like I actually played it, talking about the games that I enjoyed and what I didn't like, the most notorious games. You could go into all that, and then take that transcription from ChatGPT, put it into Notebook LM, have these 2 people make a podcast about it, then upload that as a podcast, and no one would be any wiser, assuming like there was no like blatant errors. Like there was one blatant error in the one they made about me. When I talked last week about having a toy and game store on eBay, they assumed that it was a physical store. And they went into this discussion as to whether a physical store can make it in 2024. So that was kind of interesting. I'm like, caught you, you're not real, but it was pretty neat. And like it's really got me like curious about technology, but also fearful of it, because like as a content creator who makes a podcast, what place will I have in the future once they get so good that they can make up a whole week of things? Just like I'm talking about now, you can just make up random sequence of events. Oh, sweet and sour packet got stuck in the ice dispenser. That's a funny story. ChatGPT is coming up with it. I don't know, but we'll enjoy the last days of humans having purpose here. I'm kidding, of course. I think there's always gonna be a place. Creativity is very important, I believe. And all Chat GPT and all these things do is just churn stuff that already exists. You're always going to need people making new stuff. And I think that's where humans are going to find their place. And hopefully you can find your place as we send you out on this week's episode. Again, next week, hoping to come back. I would probably be a little bit later recording it, but I'm hoping to come back on Friday. Hopefully not soaked, hopefully not empty-handed, but hopefully with a lot of scores from next week's yard sale, the last community sale of the year, fulfilling the prophecy. And then I hope to see you also enjoy the new videos that I'm making, these vertical style like little recaps of things that's going on in my day. I think it'll be enjoyable. And maybe doing a little gaming here and there, maybe off YouTube, diversification, see how it goes, experimenting. There's no rule book with this. I'm just making the rules as I go and doing what I feel called to do. And I hope that's what you do as I send you out. And I appreciate you tuning in to this episode. And as always, we'll find you in the next Missing Pieces.